Ever since the 2026 Grammys ratings disaster and how that was a nightmare for CBS, we have seen countless celebrities, media personalities, public figures out there, even politicians, jumping on the bandwagon to actually justify what, Billie Eilish said on stage with her stolen land remark and her anti-ICE comments and more. And we all know
Oh,
that they are the
fuck my
main
life.
factors as to why CBS was dealing with a ratings disaster on their hands. It had a lot to do with what Bad Bunny had to say with his Ice Out comment, Billie Eilish and her brother just standing there on stage delivering those comments, and how you had a lot of those out in the audience, a lot of those celebrities clapping like seals. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. And thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So, Billie Eilish, it seems like that she's not handling the backlash too well after her comments went viral, and even worse, when that native tribe, the Tongva tribe, actually came out and said that her Malibu mansion actually sits on ancestral land and pointed that fact out, and how that in turn made the whole situation worse and even more viral. Now you have the mainstream media talking about this, you have social media talking about this on all platforms, pointing out the fact of what the native tribe had to say. Now, do I think it's going to go anything beyond that? I highly doubt it. I don't believe that she's going to be evicted. Let's be very realistic about this. But focusing on the fact, it actually came out and said that her Malibu mansion actually sits on ancestral land and pointed that fact out, and how that in turn made the whole situation worse and even more viral. Now you have the mainstream media talking about this, you have social media talking about this on all platforms, pointing out the fact of what the native tribe had to say. Now, do I think it's going to go anything beyond that? I highly doubt it. I don't believe that she's going to be evicted. Let's be very realistic about this. But focusing on the facts here, we know that there's a lot of things going on with Billie Eilish, and specifically with how she's handling herself in the public eye, so far it's not looking too good. So, with the 26 Grammys ratings disaster going viral and putting CBS into a state of panic, one major development that's been going on now involves more to do with how the public is reacting to Billie Eilish in the public eye during the outrageous comments that were delivered on stage with her stolen land remark. Now, it turns out that Billie Eilish was spotted by both paparazzis and multiple groups of crowds once again, where she was seen in other different parts of California this time around. This comes as Eilish was seen walking on the Hollywood Walk of Fame near crowds of people, and how she was approached by those crowds of people, where Eilish, as of course, and her bodyguards told them to back off. This is when the groups of crowds started booing at Billie Eilish when she refused to answer any questions, refused to sign any autographs, and specifically did not want to answer any questions about how her Malibu mansion was called out by a native tribe that claimed her land sits on ancestral land related to the Tongva tribe. The groups of crowds kept shouting and begging for Eilish to comment on the claims made by that very native tribe. This is when Billie Eilish shouted back at both the paparazzis and the crowds. However, words couldn't be made out as to what she said in the distance. After Billie shouted at the crowds, this was then followed by more boos coming from the crowds of people, some of which were begging for autographs, where Billie Eilish gave them a hand and put on a hood as she jumped in a black SUV with her bodyguards and took off fast. The second appearance in which she was booed at by the public involved was right in front of the Dolby Theater, where she was doing some kind of a brief photo shoot for something unknown, quite possibly for her upcoming 26 album, possibly. This is where Eilish appeared frazzled and frustrated as groups of people kept booing at her in the distance. This is where the photo shoot was cut short very early on and delayed until another day, once the backlash waters down. To make matters worse for Billie Eilish is that her team, such as her agent and manager, get this, they are already planning appearances on some television programs that she was supposed to make during this month and, of course, during the month of March, while also planning an exclusive appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live to acknowledge the backlash via ABC. Now, guys, I'm going to stop right here for one moment. The fact that her entire team, they are cutting appearances by Billie Eilish at the same exact time. They are pre-planning a full-on exclusive appearance for Billie Eilish to go on stage with Jimmy Kimmel to address the backlash and what she said at the Grammys. We all know exactly what's going to happen when she actually makes her debut on Jimmy Kimmel. We all know exactly what it's going to be all about. It's going to be all anti-Trump. anti-MAGA, anti-anything related to ICE or Border Patrol. Basically, she's going to double down on that, I'm sure of it. There's going to be no apology, there's going to be no way of damage control or anything related to it in that sense. Now, we all know what her brother said, where he blamed that the noise is only coming from angry old white men. If you heard that from her brother, believe me, she's not going to actually apologize for anything. Now, this strategy is now being pushed by her agent and manager as well as her brother to strike back at what they are calling as hecklers, and Billy and Kimmel's producers are already in the talks on how to address the level of backlash that came after the Grammys. Eilish is reportedly very desperate and very much ready to go on live television when the time is right to call out what she calls the MAGA fanatics, and plans to make it a viral moment on ABC to get back at the hecklers in her mind, quote unquote. This conversation between Eilish's team and ABC producers are ongoing as we speak, and they are pressing to get this done earlier. More realistically by the end of February, to have an air date during the final week of this month instead of March, is the current negotiation going on right now by Kimmel's producers and the executives over at ABC. Now guys, let me say one thing about this. The fact that she's being booed at on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and also in front of the Dolby Theater, not a big shocker there. We talked about what happened.
Can you guys leave a comment or leave a like?
In front of the El Capitan Entertainment Center, as well as, you know, throughout Rodeo Drive. And topping that off, she was also seen at Zuma Beach, and also getting quote-unquote heckled, as they like to call it. And we know that there's a lot of things going on right now, and how the public, even her own fans, are calling it quits. And this is not hyperbole at all in the least. There are a lot of die-hard Billie Eilish fans out there that are outright rejecting her music now, that are outright rejecting her involvement in upcoming films for either credit sequences that would use her music or anything related to in that area. We know that there's a lot of things going on right now when it comes down to Billie Eilish. Now, the thing about this is that the fact that her entire team, they are cutting appearances, but also they are planning something big to make her go on Jimmy Kimmel Live. That tells me a lot. That tells me that they are trying to take advantage of the situation. And look, we all know that, like I said before, if she's going on Jimmy Kimmel Live, don't expect any form of an apology or any form of her going into damage control mode. She is going to go all out again. She's going to triple down on her anti-ICE rhetoric and really just outright rejecting ICE or Border Patrol that actually, you know, really do embrace, you know, closed borders. They're really just keeping our country secure. That's the ultimate truth that they really don't want to admit. And everything with them is taken out of context when it comes down to these celebrities. Now, we know one thing about this for sure, is that the Grammys of 2026 was indeed a major failure for CBS. I mean, we all know that they know it deep down, and a lot of people, ever since Bad Bunny actually said what he ever said on stage with Ice Out, nobody really wants to actually tune in to the halftime show. Now, of course, you're going to have people who are fans of Bad Bunny that are going to tune into that, but nobody wants to listen to his nonsense anymore. Nobody wants to support his work during the halftime show. People are going to actually enjoy their halftime moment elsewhere. Believe me on this. There's a lot of people out there that are switching channels. But overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about Billie Eilish being called out now in the public eye, and how it doesn't seem to be resolving anytime soon. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.
Thank you so much for the likes, guys. I appreciate it, okay? I gotta go make some breakfast. Please subscribe so that you can see when I'm gonna be on live to play more games. Not only do I have a Super Nintendo here, but I also have Super Nintendo CD. I don't know what kind of games are here.
Biggest lefties losing it at the Grammys shortly, but first let's
Virtual
check in
Boy.
with actor Peter Dinklage, who recited this moving, poignant poem for Renee Good, this is not at all cringe and crazy.
Renee Good, killed by ICE on January 7th,
All right, guys, I gotta go.
2026.